The rain hammered against the cracked window of Martha's diner, a small establishment tucked between a pawn shop and a laundromat in South Philadelphia. The neon sign outside flickered weakly, casting an orange glow over the wet pavement. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee and grease hung in the air like a permanent fixture. Keisha Williams wiped down the same table for the third time that evening, her movements mechanical, born from 6 years of doing the exact same thing. At 28, she looked older. The lines around her eyes told stories of double shifts, unpaid bills, and a daughter waiting at home with a grandmother who was running out of time. The clock on the wall read 10:47 p.m., 15 minutes until closing. Keisha allowed herself a small breath of relief. Her feet ached in shoes held together by duct tape hidden beneath the laces. The tips tonight had been terrible. $42. Barely enough for Jasmine's school supplies, let alone the medication her mother needed. The bell above the door chimed. Keisha looked up, her rehearsed smile faltering slightly. 3 men walked in, their presence immediately changing the atmosphere of the diner. They wore expensive suits, the kind that cost more than her monthly rent. The man in front was older, maybe 60, with silver hair slicked back and eyes that seemed to calculate everything they touched. Behind him, 2 younger men stood with their hands clasped in front of them, silent and watchful. Martha, the owner, emerged from the kitchen, her face going pale. She made eye contact with Keisha and gave the slightest shake of her head. A warning. But what choice did Keisha have? She grabbed a menu and approached the table where the 3 men had seated themselves in the corner booth. "Welcome to Martha's. What can I get you gentlemen tonight?" The older man looked up at her, his gaze lingering for a moment longer than comfortable. He had a scar running from his temple to his jawline, faded with age but still prominent. "Coffee, black, and whatever pie you have that's fresh." The 2 men behind him said nothing, their eyes scanning the diner as if memorizing every exit. "We have apple and cherry. The apple was made this morning. Apple then." The man's voice was smooth, almost gentle, which somehow made it more unsettling. Keisha wrote it down and headed to the kitchen. Martha grabbed her arm as soon as she pushed through the door. "You know who that is?" Martha's voice was barely a whisper. "Should I? That's Vincent Castellano. People don't just serve him coffee, Keisha. They pray he leaves without incident." Keisha felt her stomach tighten, but she grabbed the coffee pot anyway. She had served drug dealers, con artists, and men who made her skin crawl. She needed this job. She needed every dollar. Fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. She returned to the table, poured the coffee with steady hands, and placed the slice of apple pie in front of Vincent. He nodded, dismissing her without a word. The next 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Keisha cleaned tables, refilled napkin dispensers, and tried to ignore the weight of Vincent's presence. The 2 men with him never touched anything, never spoke. They simply existed as shadows. When Vincent finally stood, Keisha approached with the check. $18.50. He pulled out a wallet made of leather so fine it seemed to glow under the fluorescent lights. Then he placed something on the table. Not a 20, not even 100. $500 bills. 10 of them. $50,000. Keisha stared at the money, her mind unable to process what she was seeing. Her hands trembled as she picked up the stack, trying to hand it back. "Sir, this has to be a mistake." Vincent looked at her with those calculating eyes. "No mistake. You work hard. I can see it. Consider it a tip. I can't accept this. This is too much. I can't." Vincent tilted his head slightly, a gesture that felt more dangerous than any raised voice. "You're refusing my generosity? I'm grateful, really, but this isn't right. I didn't do anything to deserve this." The 2 men behind Vincent shifted, their movement subtle but loaded with meaning. Martha had frozen near the cash register, her face white as paper. Vincent stepped closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Most people would kill for what I just offered you. You're either very brave or very stupid." Keisha met his eyes, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm just trying to do the right thing." A slow smile spread across Vincent's face, one that didn't reach his eyes. The right thing. He repeated the words as if tasting them. Then you don't work here anymore. You work for me. The rain outside seemed to grow louder. The flickering neon sign cast dancing shadows across Vincent's face. And Keisha realized that refusing $50,000 had just changed her life in ways she couldn't yet understand. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. You work for me. Keisha felt her throat tighten, her pulse hammering in her ears. I already have a job. Vincent's smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. Not anymore. Martha, she's done here. Martha nodded frantically from behind the counter, her hands shaking as she wiped them on her apron. Keisha felt the ground shift beneath her feet. 6 years. 6 years of grease burns, rude customers, and barely making ends meet. Gone in an instant. You can't just fire me. I work for Martha, not you. One of the men behind Vincent stepped forward, but Vincent raised a hand, stopping him. Martha owns this diner because I allow her to own this diner. The building, the block, half of South Philly operates because I permit it. So yes, Keisha Williams, I can do exactly what I want. The use of her full name sent ice through her veins. He knew who she was. How long had he known? I have a daughter, a sick mother. I can't just walk away from steady work to what? What do you even want from me? Vincent picked up his coffee cup, taking a slow sip despite it being cold by now. You showed me something tonight. Integrity. In my world, that's rarer than diamonds. I need someone I can trust in one of my establishments. Someone who won't steal, won't lie, won't take shortcuts. You mean someone you can control. His eyes flashed, and for a moment, Keisha saw the man beneath the expensive suit. The man who had built an empire through violence and fear. Control is such an ugly word. Think of it as an opportunity. I pay better than this dump. Your daughter gets into the best school in the city. Your mother gets the treatment she needs. All you have to do is manage one of my restaurants. Keep the books clean. Keep your mouth shut. And if I refuse? Vincent stood, buttoning his suit jacket with deliberate precision. Then you'll find that jobs in this city become very hard to come by. Martha's diner closes by the end of the month. Your landlord suddenly remembers that rent increase he's been planning. Your mother's medication becomes unavailable at every pharmacy you visit. He leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper that made her skin crawl. I'm offering you a golden cage, Keisha. Most people would beg for it. But if you want to stay in the gutter out of principle, I can arrange for the gutter to become much, much deeper. Tears burned behind Keisha's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of him. I need time to think. Vincent straightened, placing a business card on the table next to the rejected $50,000. You have until tomorrow night, 8 p.m. The address is on the card. Don't make me come looking for you. He walked toward the door, his men following like trained dogs. Before stepping into the rain, he turned back one last time. And Keisha? Bring the money. You'll need it where you're going. The door closed, the bell chimed, and Keisha collapsed into the nearest chair, staring at the card in her trembling hands. Keisha didn't sleep that night. She sat at the small kitchen table in her cramped apartment, the business card in front of her like a loaded gun. Through the thin walls, she could hear her neighbor's television, the couple upstairs arguing, the city breathing its restless rhythm. In the bedroom, her mother coughed. The sound rattled through the apartment, a reminder of every bill Keisha couldn't pay, every prescription she had to choose between. Baby, you still up? Her mother appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a bathrobe that had seen better days. Dorothy Williams was only 56 but looked 70. Cancer did that. Poverty did that. Couldn't sleep, Mama. Dorothy sat down across from her, her eyes falling on the business card. What's that? Keisha had told her everything. About Vincent, about the money, about the impossible choice. Her mother listened in silence, her weathered hands folded on the table. So you gonna work for the devil to save your family? Or you gonna let pride kill us all? Mama, it's not that simple. Yes, it is, baby. Dorothy reached across the table, taking Keisha's hand. I've lived my whole life doing the right thing. Worked 3 jobs, raised you alone after your daddy left, never took a shortcut. And where did it get me? Dying slowly because I can't afford to live. You think God rewards suffering. He doesn't. The world rewards power. I don't want Jasmine growing up thinking this is okay. You want her growing up without a grandmother? Without a mother because you're working yourself to death in some diner? Dorothy's grip tightened. Sometimes survival ain't pretty, Keisha. Sometimes you gotta make deals with the devil to live long enough to become an angel. The next evening, Keisha stood outside an upscale restaurant in Rittenhouse Square. The sign read Castellanos in elegant gold script. Through the windows, she could see white tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, and people who had never worried about choosing between food and medicine. She carried the $50,000 in her purse. Felt like carrying her own soul. The door opened before she could knock. One of Vincent's men from the diner stood there, his face expressionless. He's waiting upstairs. If you're watching this and wondering what you would do in Keisha's shoes, take a moment and subscribe to the channel. Because what happens next will challenge everything you think you know about right and wrong. The real twist is just beginning. Keisha climbed the stairs, each step feeling like a descent rather than an ascent. At the top, a private dining room. Vincent sat alone at a table set for two, a bottle of wine already open. I wasn't sure you'd come. Keisha placed the money on the table. I'm here, but I have conditions. Vincent's eyebrow raised, something like respect flickering in his eyes. I'm listening. Vincent gestured to the chair across from him. Keisha sat, her spine straight, refusing to show weakness. My mother gets the best cancer treatment available. Full coverage. No questions asked. Done. My daughter stays in our neighborhood school. I don't want her in some private academy where she doesn't belong. Vincent poured wine into 2 glasses, sliding one toward her. Interesting choice. Most people would want the opposite. I want her to remember where she came from. Keisha left the wine untouched. And I don't do anything illegal. I manage your restaurant, keep the books, but I'm not laundering money or covering up crimes. For the first time, Vincent laughed. A genuine sound that seemed foreign coming from him. You think you can work for me and keep your hands clean? That's not how this world works. Then teach me how it works. But I won't become something my daughter can't be proud of. Vincent studied her for a long moment, swirling the wine in his glass. 6 months ago, I had a manager here, Stefano. Good man, loyal, worked for me for 15 years. He started skimming, just a little at first, then more. He thought I wouldn't notice. What happened to him? He's managing a restaurant in Seattle now. I gave him a second chance because his daughter was sick, just like your mother. Keisha felt something shift in her understanding of the man across from her. You're not what I expected. Vincent's face hardened. Don't mistake mercy for weakness. Stefano got a second chance because he earned it over 15 years. You're starting from zero. One mistake, one betrayal, and you'll wish you'd stayed at Martha's Diner. Over the next 3 months, Keisha discovered that Vincent Castellano was more complicated than the monster she'd imagined. Yes, he was dangerous. Yes, his empire was built on morally questionable foundations. But he kept his word. Her mother received treatment at the best oncology center in Philadelphia. The doctors were optimistic. Dorothy was responding well. Castellano's restaurant ran smoothly under Keisha's management. She had a gift for it, she realized. Organization, attention to detail, the ability to handle difficult customers with grace. Skills honed from years of survival. But she also saw things. Envelopes exchanged in back rooms. Conversations that stopped when she entered. Men who came to see Vincent with fear in their eyes. One night, a man burst into the restaurant during closing. He was bleeding, panicked, begging for Vincent's help. Vincent handled it with cold efficiency, making calls, arranging things Keisha didn't want to understand. After the man was taken away, Vincent found her in the office, staring at nothing. Having second thoughts? Every day. Good. The day you stop questioning this life is the day you become like everyone else in my world. Vincent sat on the edge of her desk. You're different, Keisha. You see the gray. Most people only see black and white. Is that why you really hired me? Because I refused your money? I hired you because you're the first person in 20 years who looked me in the eye and told me no. The call came at 2 in the morning. Keisha's phone buzzed on the nightstand, Vincent's name flashing on the screen. Her heart dropped. Calls at this hour never meant anything good. Get to the restaurant. Now, what happened? Just come. 20 minutes later, Keisha pushed through the doors of Castellanos to find chaos. Police tape, flashing lights, detectives moving through the dining room like sharks. Vincent stood near the bar. His usual composed demeanor cracked around the edges. Detective Morrison approached her immediately.
Keisha Williams? We need to ask you some questions about the books. Her stomach turned to ice. This was it. The moment she'd feared since accepting Vincent's offer. The moment when staying clean became impossible. I managed the restaurant. The books are accurate. Morrison smiled, but it wasn't friendly. That's the problem. They're too accurate. Every transaction documented, every dollar accounted for. Makes us wonder what you're hiding. I'm not hiding anything. Vincent stepped forward, his voice carrying authority even surrounded by police. Ms. Williams has nothing to do with whatever you think you found. She runs a legitimate business. Morrison ignored him, focusing on Keisha. We have evidence of money laundering through this establishment. Large cash deposits, offshore accounts, shell corporations. You're the manager. Either you're complicit or incompetent. Keisha felt the walls closing in. 6 months of walking a tightrope, and now she was falling. Then Vincent did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone, made a call, and within minutes, a lawyer arrived. Not just any lawyer, but someone who made Detective Morrison's confidence evaporate. My client has cooperated fully with all legal requirements. Unless you have evidence of her personal wrongdoing, this conversation is over. The investigation dragged on for 3 weeks. Keisha learned that Vincent had been setting up a fall guy, someone within his organization who'd actually been stealing from him. The books Keisha kept were so clean, so transparent, that they became evidence of her innocence rather than her guilt. When it was finally over, when the charges were dropped and the real criminal arrested, Keisha sat in Vincent's office, exhausted and angry. You used me. You knew this was coming. Vincent didn't deny it. I knew someone in my organization was dirty. I needed clean books to prove it wasn't me. And I needed someone running this place who couldn't be bought or scared into lying. You could have told me. Would you have stayed? Keisha stood, her decision crystallizing. I'm done. My mother's treatment is almost finished. I've saved enough money. I'm out. Vincent nodded slowly, something like regret crossing his face. You kept your end of the bargain. I'll keep mine. There's a severance package waiting for you. Enough to start fresh, anywhere you want. Why are you letting me go? Because you were right that first night. You don't belong in my world. Vincent stood, extending his hand. And that's exactly why I needed you in it. Keisha shook his hand, feeling the weight of 6 months lifting from her shoulders. 2 years later, Keisha stood in front of her own restaurant in West Philadelphia. The sign read Dorothy's Place, named after her mother who sat inside at the best table, cancer-free and glowing with pride. The grand opening had drawn a crowd. Neighbors, friends, people from the community who remembered when Keisha was just a waitress at Martha's Diner, struggling to survive. Jasmine, now 12, helped seat customers with the confidence of a child who'd watched her mother rebuild their lives from the ground up. She wore a dress she'd picked out herself, her natural hair styled in braids that caught the afternoon light. Mama, there's someone at the door asking for you. Keisha turned, her breath catching. Vincent Castellanos stood at the entrance, older somehow, wearing a simple suit instead of his usual armor of expensive fabric. He was alone, no bodyguards, no entourage. She walked over, uncertain. Didn't think I'd see you again. Vincent glanced around the restaurant, taking in the warm lighting, the photographs of the neighborhood on the walls, the menu featuring soul food with upscale presentation. I wanted to see what you built. He met her eyes. And to apologize. For what? For putting you in an impossible position. For using your integrity as a tool. Vincent's voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it. You were right to leave. Some people aren't meant for my world. Keisha felt something soften inside her. You kept your word about my mother. The treatment, the money. I never thanked you properly. You don't owe me thanks. You earned everything you got. Vincent pulled out an envelope. This is for the restaurant. Not a loan, not an investment. A gift. No strings. Keisha hesitated, then took it. Inside was a check for $50,000. The same amount he tried to give her as a tip 2 years ago. Full circle. Vincent smiled, a real smile this time. Maybe this is what I was trying to give you all along. A chance to build something that was truly yours. He turned to leave, but Keisha called after him. Vincent? Thank you. For seeing something in me I didn't see in myself. He nodded once and walked out into the Philadelphia sunshine, disappearing into the city that had shaped them both. Dorothy's place thrived. Keisha hired people from the neighborhood, second-chance employees who needed someone to believe in them the way Vincent had believed in her. The restaurant became a gathering place, a symbol of what was possible when you refused to compromise who you were, even in the darkest circumstances. And if you made it to the end of this story, thank you for being here. If this journey moved you, hit that like button and drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in Keisha's position. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about ordinary people facing extraordinary choices. And let me know in the comments what kind of story you'd like to see next. Your support means everything. Until next time, remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay true to yourself, even when the world offers you everything to change.